Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Connor. Today we're going to make a little glass vase for you guys. Unfortunately, this video had some problems with the audio, so I'm going to talk a little bit more than I normally would. So first we're going to pick up some color bar. This color is called Heliotrope. It's kind of like a darker pink color. And I know right now it doesn't actually look pink, but that's because it's so dense. So once we get it hot and we spread it across our clear bubble, it'll start to thin out and you'll be able to actually see the true color. But whenever you get any of the glass colors hot, they start to turn orange, kind of like this, so they always have that kind of orange tint whenever they're molten and moving. So we're just rolling this around on the marber table to slowly turn it into what we call a color overlay. This table that I'm using is called a marbering table. It's made out of thick steel so that it stays nice and cool. It doesn't heat up. The hot things like to stick to hot things, so if it did heat up, my glass would likely stick to it. So this is our furnace where all of our clear glass is stored. Inside of the furnace is basically like a big reservoir of clear glass. Our furnace holds up to about 700 pounds of clear glass. We leave it on 24/7, 365. We never turn it off unless we absolutely have to. And if we did have to, we would need to empty all 700 pounds out of the furnace too. So now I'm going to use my wooden block to shape up that clear glass while it's nice and hot, and we'll prep it for our bubble. So what you're about to see me do is what we call a starter bubble. I blew into the pipe, capped it with my thumb. The air pressurizes and expands and finds the path of least resistance, which is straight out of my pipe. Makes a little bubble. And now I'm going to try to cool it down while my brother in the background has the color overlay, that heliotrope color, and he's going to heat it up and we're going to smear it across the top of this bubble. So something that's very important about these color overlays is the difference in temperature. So my base is very cold, and the color overlay, that heliotrope, is really hot. So we want to keep that contrast as it is, because I want my cold base to stay nice and solid so that my bubble doesn't collapse in on itself, but I also want to keep the glass on top hot so that I can smear it across it and cover the bubble up so that we have a nice even layer of that purple-pink color. So now I've gotten it nice and hot, and I'm going to try to push it across my bubble very slowly on the marber. You really only have a small window of time before your base, your starter bubble, will start to heat up again. So I'd say you have about 2 or 3 heats until everything starts to become close to the same temperature. You got to be pretty quick about this move. So now I've got it to the right size, and I'm going to let it cool down a little bit. We're going to go get our second layer of glass out of the furnace. Whenever we're collecting glass out of the furnace, it's kind of like taking a toothpick and trying to collect honey on the tip of it. You always want to gather glass off of the tip of your blowpipe, because if you're gathering it on the actual pipe, you're going to have to push it off. Anything that's overlapping the pipe, we're going to ultimately lose in the process. So we'll cool the pipe off a little bit with this water pump I have, little pipe cooler. Now I'm using one of the wooden blocks to really cool down that outside layer while I let the inside heat up. These wooden blocks are made out of fruit tree trunks because they're very dense. They live their entire lives in water.
Yeah, it's called cullet.
The marber kind of works as a heat sink to pull out all of the heat from my glass, so it's really good to shape as well as cool down the glass. What I'm doing right now is I'm going to try to push a lot of that glass down to the tip, and I'm going to get ready to puff it up a little bit.
I'll hang over the side and blow.
And now we'll hang it over the edge, and we'll inflate it a little bit. And now we'll get it hot, and we'll really start to inflate the piece. And now we're going to use my newspaper tool to cool down the outside before we start to inflate it. This tool is about 10 sheets of newspaper folded over each other and soaked in water. I can really use it to shape the glass and cool it down, similar to the marber. Now we're in the inflating process, so you'll see me using my newspaper quite a few times so that I can really solidify the bottom when my brother blows through the pipe and starts to inflate that midsection. This stage kind of goes in increments, so you'll notice that it's slowly going to inflate over time instead of all of it kind of happening in one move. You really want to ease the glass into being the shape that it wants to be, that you want to make it to be. And this is called the fluffy torch. If you've watched any of our videos, you've probably noticed that we use this thing quite a bit. It's really good to specific heat certain areas of the glass, so I'm really blasting the kind of back end of it so that I can inflate that part whenever I take this next heat. It'll get extra, extra hot there, just exponentially hotter than it would normally.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So now we're putting in our jack line. This is going to be where we're going to break the glass off of this pipe once we do our punty transfer. The punty transfer is going to come a little bit later, but essentially we'll end up transferring this piece to another pipe and breaking it off on this small incision that I've made right there. Now my glass is still pretty hot, so I'm going to use my newspaper and tell Luke to kind of blow the glass up a little bit more. You'll notice it's inflating slowly.
Back. Blow a little harder. All right, off. Awesome. It's round.
So now we're going to use gravity to stretch out that midsection, and you'll see me sit down at the bench, and I'll use my newspaper tool to really cool down that midsection so that we can push that bubble closer down to the bottom and really give this thing a little bit more length. Meanwhile, I'm going to also try to puff up that midsection, so we're doing a bunch of different things at once.
All right, off. We'll do that one more time. All right.
And now I'm using a small wooden paddle to really start to put the bottom on the piece. And now we can finish putting the bottom in as Luke applies a little bit more force.
This is fine right there. Yep. All right, perfect. So we can punny it open.
And now we'll begin to do our punty transfer. Luke has a small bit of glass on the end of this solid pipe. He's going to shape it up, give it a small point at the end, and I'll be able to use it to connect onto the bottom of our piece, and then we'll break it off right on that small jack line that we put in. Whenever doing these punty transfers, I only have a small amount of time to make sure this thing is straight on center. We want to make sure that it is right in the middle, because the further off center that I am, I'm not going to be able to make something that's symmetrical, a nice even shaped vessel, which is what we want. So the glass on the punty is nice and hot, and I'm slowly making sure that it's straight in the middle as much as it can be, as best as I can do. I'm going to let the glass cool down, and then you'll see me score this with my jacks. I'll apply a little bit of water, and then we'll knock it off of here, and we'll see what we can do.
All right, ready? Up and...
In the beginning of glassblowing, the punty transfer can really be a pivotal kind of moment. If the glass breaks in the process, that's usually where it's going to break. And now Luke's going to pick up the small cup that we pre-made. This is what we call a supio. So it's some cane rods that I made a small cup out of. And what we're going to do is we're going to heat up just the lip of it, and we're going to attach it onto the tip of our piece. So it'll have probably about 80% of that heliotrope color, and then about 20%, I think maybe just a little bit less, of the cane cup at the top. This process that we're doing is called Encalmo. It basically means to bring two pieces together. So we're going to heat up both of the lips, and then we'll try to get a nice connection. This is all about timing and temperature. You really have to have good communication with your partner. And I'm still figuring this move out. So, you know, this one came out really, really well in the end. I'm super happy about it. But you can always go better. You know, there's always ways to improve. So we've got them right at the temperature we want. I'm going to let this kind of even out because that cup is falling off center the longer I take. And now we'll stab it on. And I'll break Luke free, and then I'll start to heat that cup up. And that was great. That was a fantastic connection. You know, like I said, we're still working on this, so that went very, very smoothly. Very happy with that. Now, when we pick this cup up out of the box that it was preheated in, it's at about 1,000 degrees. But our glass melts at about 1275, so we need to bring it up to temperature. And so I'm going to blast it with this fluffy torch because my very dark pink base is much hotter than the cup. So I'm trying to bring them up to the same temperature. And you'll also notice that here, I'm not even heating up the back half of it. I really just want to heat up the top half so it's nice and hot so that everything flows together. They become one. And now we'll begin to open it up with our jacks.
Yeah. Give me a paddle and just push in.
We'll go through this process quite a few times. What I'm trying to do is really get the new cup onto a nice even plane with my base. You can see that it's kind of concave where we made the connection. So I'm trying to even out that field so that it's nice and flat, and then I can work it a little bit easier.
It's okay. It's okay. Not a big
So
deal.
we're going to go through this process a few times, flattening the lip, opening it with my jacks. But while we're doing this, I just wanted to remind you guys to go ahead and subscribe, like the video, share it to anybody who you think would really like this and be interested in the channel. And I also just want to say I really appreciate everybody who made it through this far. You guys are the best. So I'm getting ready to use my Sophietta tool. What you'll see is I'm going to put this little cone tool on the mouth, I'll puff it up, and it starts to inflate the inside. This tool is fantastic for rounding out edges, and if you have like a shoulder on a cup that won't go away, you can puff the inside and it'll really round everything out. It's one of my favorite tools. And now you'll see Luke go on again with the straight puffer, the Sophietta.
Alright, off. Alright, Luke, I'm gonna flare it, and I'll just need a paddle. But, yeah, he's like doing all that.
And now I think we're just going to use our jacks, open it up a little bit more, and we'll have a finished piece.
Very nice. Yeah, I like it. We'll accentuate it just one more time. Yep, go on. Yeah. Alright, man, that's it. Yeah.
And that's our finished piece. I'm very, very happy with how it came out. I had some friends visiting from out of town, and all they were saying the whole time was that it reminded them of one of the nuclear facility stacks from The Simpsons, so I've been calling this one the Simpsons Vase. So now my brother has the Kevlars on, and what we're going to do is we're going to slowly apply some water around this puntee so that it wants to break off. You don't want to put any water on the bottom of the piece, but I want to get as close to the connection as possible. So I'll apply some water, and then you'll see him pick it up in his gloves, give it a little tap, and we're good to go. And now I can use my map gas. We'll get rid of all those little sharp spots on the bottom, and before it cracks, we got to run over to our annealer, and we'll throw it inside.
Great. Perfect.
The glass takes about 12 hours to cool, so tomorrow we can take a look at it.
Yeah, it's a good day.
Alright, and here we go. I'm insanely happy with how this came out. I love the striations and the lines, I love the color, I love the shape. I'm super happy about it. You know, we've been practicing this kind of stick-up Encalmo move for a while. It's getting better and better, so the product just gets better and better too. I'm super happy with it. But again, I just want to say thanks guys for hanging out today, and make sure to like and subscribe, share the video, and we'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one.